Good Friday afternoon to you. Hope your weekend is off to a great start. Thanks for joining us on Sports4CLE. I'm Dave Bacon. Plenty to talk about this Friday. Munch Bishop will be along a little bit later to talk about the Indians as well as the Browns. We'll also be joined by the voice of the Columbus Clippers, Ryan Mitchell. He'll talk about some of the guys and how they're doing down at AAA. But we begin by starting to talk about the Cleveland Browns. And we are going to talk plenty about the Browns. Let's welcome in cleveland.com and plain dealer columnist Doug Lesmerises. Doug, a lot of talk today about Baker Mayfield. This will be an interesting topic. And we'll start out. Mike Florio from Pro Football Talk talked about extending Baker Mayfield and the time to do it. Let's listen to Mike Florio from Pro Football Talk.
Look, I can make this very simple. You got a decision to make if you're the Cleveland Browns. The longer you wait, the more expensive it's going to be to sign Baker Mayfield. And I think part of the dance right now between Mayfield, Josh Allen, the Bills, Lamar Jackson, the Ravens, is whoever goes first is going to get leapfrogged by the next guy who's going to get leapfrogged by the next guy. So everyone's kind of in a holding pattern here. But if you know Mayfield's your guy, and only you as the Cleveland Browns can know whether or not he's the guy, if you're sold on this guy completely, totally, and unconditionally, then you got to sign him now because it's only going to get more expensive later.
That's right.
If you're not sold, then you wait.
Doug Lesmerises, what do you think?
I think they're sold, but I also think they could wait because I think that, every time this conversation comes up, it's like, I'm sure he's going to be here. I'm sure he's going to sign at some point. I think Mike does make a good point about the idea that Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, and Baker Mayfield are in the same class and kind of in that same situation. I think in some ways, listen, Baker Mayfield's their guy, but he's not as accomplished so far as Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen are, right? I mean, Lamar Jackson has an MVP. Josh Allen was at the fringe of the MVP conversation last year. Baker Mayfield's just not there yet. He had a good rookie year, rough second year, little rough early last year, and a great finish to last season. So he doesn't quite have the skins on the wall that Lamar and Josh have. So I do think that it could make sense. I don't think Baker has to wait for them, right? That part of this is, the Baker side of things as well a little bit, that I think it might make sense for the Browns and Baker Mayfield for them to go now, for them to go first, because Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen might build off Baker, but I don't know. I mean, can Baker Mayfield look at Lamar Jackson and say, well, I deserve exactly the money that the guy who already has an MVP got? So listen, I still just think it's a little bit picking nits to me that, he's the Browns' long-term quarterback, so I'm not too wound up about the timing, but I think it could make sense for both sides to do it sooner than later.
Yeah, and the thing I would say about comparing Baker Mayfield to Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen is those guys have been in the same system. They had a better surrounding support cast, and it's been something they've been able to build on. This is really the first time in his career with the Browns that Baker Mayfield can build on a previous season.
He can, but I also don't think that it would be fair to characterize it as if they don't do something now, it means that they're uncertain, right? I can understand why you might connect the dots that way, but I don't think you have to connect the dots that way. That if you believe in him, you sign him now because you think he's only going to get better. If you're questioning him, you let him wait because you think he might fall off. I don't think it means that, but I just think maybe there are other things at play that they don't do it right now. But again, I don't think there has to be anything holding it up. I don't think there is anything holding it up, but I also don't know that it guarantees. I'm bad at this topic. I'm just like, it's going to work out. My answer to everything is it's all going to work out. So what are we worried about? I understand why people are talking about it, but I'm not worried, man. Now, later, whenever. But I do think it could make sense now.
Yeah, I would agree. I get it, and I get what you're saying. Okay, so next topic. We're going to talk Mike Tannenbaum, former general manager, was also a player agent, was asked, as he played now, based on last year, is Baker Mayfield a top 10 quarterback in the NFL? Here's Mike Tannenbaum's answer.
Baker Mayfield, is he a top 10 NFL quarterback? 30 seconds, go.
Not yet, but boy, it's close, Greeny. What a massive improvement he took last year. 26 touchdowns,
They won 11 games, won a playoff game. If Odell Beckham comes back and he's healthy for the full season with a full offseason with Kevin Stefanski, I think he could get there. I just want to see him be a little bit more consistent, especially down the field. But on paper, it's going the right direction. And by the end of the year, we should be saying Baker Mayfield is now a top 10 quarterback.
I think that's a fair assessment. And I'd say he's pretty close to that right now.
I thought Tannenbaum was going to say no. He's 11th. Like I'm so definitive. Listen. PFF, and we did our Orange and Brown Talk podcast for this weekend on this topic. PFF put up their rankings on anything, and according to PFF, Baker Mayfield was 10th. And we did make a big deal on the podcast. Hey, he's in the top 10. It's interesting because there's some pretty clear tiers, right? If you would say, and I think this makes sense, Patrick Mahomes, Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, and Deshaun Watson when he's on the field. I think that's a pretty clear top 5. Then to me, there's a next tier, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Dak Prescott, and Baker Mayfield to me belongs in that group. And then whether you have him in the top 10 or not depends on how you compare him with some older guys like Matt Ryan, like Ryan Tannehill, like Matthew Stafford, guys that have been around longer. On PFF's list, I think they had Baker Mayfield 10th, Stafford 11th, Ryan Tannehill 12th. Listen, if you want to make a compelling case for Tannehill and or Stafford to be ahead of Baker, I think you can make a case. So then Baker's not top 10. But the idea is there is actual top 10 and there is theoretical top 10. Theoretical in that range, because I think top 10 is a stand-in for, can you win a Super Bowl with this guy? I think that's what top 10 means. I think top 5 means, can he sort of carry you to a Super Bowl by himself? Like a Mahomes, like a Brady. Baker's not top 5. But the idea of top 10, I mean, if someone was strongly against and said, no way, he's not top 10, I would really question that. You know, right on the edge, I think makes sense. But I think to like generally call him a top 10 quarterback, I think makes a lot of sense based on what he's done and what you think he's going to do.
Yeah, and in fairness, let's see this year when he's in a system, again, for a second year, I think he's going to take a pretty significant jump forward based on having Kevin Stefanski with him again. So Andrew Berry was on the Ross Tucker Football Podcast. Take a listen to what he said about Baker Mayfield and the way the Browns feel about their quarterback.
Baker, over the past year, has shown an enormous amount of growth. I think that's both on the field and then, quite honestly, off the field as well. So we are excited. He's, going into his first offseason where coaching staff, the offensive system is exactly the same. Not to mention that there's been very little turnover on the offensive side of the ball. And we're excited about him continuing to make strides under Kevin's tutelage, in this offense, because we think he's a very talented player, think he's very skilled, and he really embodies the characteristics that we want within our program. So we're excited about his potential this upcoming year, and he's been hard at work this entire offseason.
So Doug, you know how measured Andrew Berry is, and Ross Tucker's a former NFL guy, so it sure sounds like they're looking to extend him to me. That when I heard that, I'm like, yeah, they're looking to extend him and lock him up.
Yeah, no, I mean, the one thing about franchise quarterbacks, Dave, and we know this, is like you have to express faith in your franchise quarterback, because like the minute you don't express faith in your franchise quarterback, it's like he's sort of not your franchise quarterback anymore. So he does have to say this stuff, but I do think they also do believe it. And this goes back to when Andrew Berry got here. We see now 2 years in, I mean, everybody listens to this, clearly sees it. It was offense first, defense second. Andrew Berry had this comprehensive total plan the whole time. But the reason they did offense first was because of this. Andrew Berry just said it. Not only is he coming back with a coach and an offensive coordinator for the first time to have them returning, but it's all his guys are back. The offensive line is back. The receivers are back, right? That's a big deal, that they wanted to get the offense done first so that they could have continuity. I mean, imagine if Baker was coming back and he was on the defensive side of the ball. It's like, hey, guess what? We have 9 new starters around Baker. That would add more uncertainty. So it was obviously very strategic. And Barry said at the time, we wanted to build around Baker and give everything he needed. So, again, the thing that I would caution everybody against is there is a fine line, the way we talk about it, the way fans talk about it, the way media asks Baker about it. I don't want it to go right from like faith to pressure. It's like, oh, look, the team has faith in you. Baker, do you feel pressure on you now that you have your coaches back and the offense is all back? It's like, no, it's just doing your job. It's comfort, right? That he doesn't have to be Patrick Mahomes, but I do believe Andrew Berry when he says that the franchise has faith in Baker Mayfield.
Doug Lesmerises and I, columnists for the Plain Dealer as well as cleveland.com, going to step aside, take a quick time out. On the other side of the break, we'll hear more from Andrew Berry talking about extending people early as opposed to waiting. We'll also take a look at some guys the Browns may franchise tag. Sports4CLE. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
Life is starting to get back on track, and you can too. If you or your family have experienced financial hardship as a result of COVID-19, Tri-C can help with full tuition assistance. Safely get the in-demand degree or training you need with online and on-campus classes. Go to tric-edu to check out our programs and resources. So, what are you waiting for? Register now for summer classes. Tri-C is where futures begin.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just the mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
Sports4CLE continues. I'm Dave Bacon. We continue talking Browns football. Andrew Berry, again from the Ross Tucker Football Podcast, talking about the Browns' philosophy of extensions and when to do that with players they view as pillars or foundational players they're going to build around.
It's a fair question, Ross. And without, I do have, a typical policy that I won't speak on specific contracts in the media in this setting. But I think it is fair to say that that is an approach that we believe in terms of, identifying, pillar guys and trying to retain them as soon as we can. Now, that being said, each situation truly is unique. But, we do want to get into a habit of rewarding our own and, identifying those guys early, no different than we did with, Myles Garrett last year. We did that with Kareem Hunt last year. So I think that that's something that you'll see more often than not within our organization. But that being said, it's not a one size fits all approach. We will deal with it on an individual basis.
Let's bring back in Doug Lesmerises, columnist for the Plain Dealer as well as cleveland.com. Doug, in addition to making good moves, it appears they make good business moves, which again, you get the two together and you have a pretty sustainable, good franchise.
Listen, I mean, Andrew Berry, as he said, is never going to talk about specific things, but I love principles, right? I mean, if you have principles and things in place, a way of doing business is how you win. And so that idea, that came up, I think, like with Joe Schobert, right when Andrew Berry took over. It was like the Browns, because Joe Schobert was already getting to the point of free agency when Andrew Berry took over. It was like kind of too late. And I think like the Browns made that decision then. We're not going to give Joe Schobert a free agent contract. But if Barry had been here the year before, and I think he kind of expressed this, maybe we could have gotten something done earlier, right? That they do want to get those pillars done early. And we're going to find out who they view as the pillars. And I've been digging into this. I got to write it eventually. But I kind of had this idea in my head of like, I don't know how many pillars a franchise can have. Guys that you really sort of have for a second contract, really, is sort of how I view it. And I thought maybe it might only be 3 or 4 guys. Digging into sort of like teams that have won in recent years, you really can have more, maybe like 6 or 7 guys who are that core. And so we're going to figure that out with the Browns. And I think those are the guys. The Browns are going to go to them early, get them done early. And if you don't get that contract, if they don't come to you and do that, that means they don't see you that way. And so it doesn't mean they don't want you around. But that's a rare group. That is the core of your team. We are building around these guys. They're not irreplaceable, but they're special. They're different, right? We don't just want a good player there. We want this good player there. So I think, Myles Garrett is one. Baker Mayfield's going to be one. I think we're going to see 5 or 6 or 7 guys treated that way in that group. And that's who the Browns are going to build around for this next stretch of 3, 4, 5, 6 years of winning.
And, that's a welcome change. In the past, it has always been, the Browns that were involved in some level of drama. A lot of it was trying to find a quarterback. Well, they found their quarterback. Take a listen. This is from Good Morning Football. And this is teams that should be extremely happy with where they are at. Kay Adams from Good Morning Football has this to say.
Who are we not talking about? Because it's this time of the year where it's a strange time of the year. We're talking about teams that have drama like the Packers, Green Bay, Aaron Rodgers, all of that. Or we're talking about teams that we have these questions about that have holes and are puzzles like, Carolina with Sam Darnold, or the Steelers. Can Big Ben get back to form? What does he have left in the tank? What are the Patriots doing? All of that. Can Tua be the guy? Those are the questions. The Cleveland Browns are always a part of that conversation at this time of year. We are always doubting. This is the first time I can remember, whether it's on this show every morning for 3 hours or even before that, we're not talking about the Browns, if at all. But if we are, it's positive and everybody's on board. The only times the Browns have come up on our shows when we talk about what a great draft they had, how it was one of our favorite drafts, how they revamped their defense, how in love with their coach we are. Jadeveon Clowney there now, where nobody even was negative about that. We're like, yeah, great, we'll see what happens. There's no talk of Baker and his commercials being too much or a distraction. No. Odell drama, none, 0, nope, zilch, none. No wild, wacky press conference quotes like we got from Freddie Kitchens in years past. Everything is smooth, steady, and positive. And Schrags, I am here for it. It is the first time we are not questioning them. We all think they'll be competitive. It's sort of weird, but it definitely feels good.
Lesmerises, you've covered the Browns for a while. I've covered the Browns for a while. It's nice to have a quiet time at this time of year with the Browns.
So a couple things on that. Like let's, drama is always right around the corner. Just when you think, so let's not get cocky about it. One thing is, listen, I look forward to the day when Baker Mayfield is here for 15 years and he gets a little cranky in his late 30s, right? Like that Aaron Rodgers is drama. It's like, you know what? Give me 10 years of awesome quarterback play and let's let everybody get sick of each other. Like that is a sign of great success. So like, I don't count that as the same kind of drama. The other thing is here, now listen, this is serious. How many people thought the Browns kind of messed up by not drafting Deshaun Watson when they could have picked him with that second first-round pick that they traded away and the Texans took Deshaun Watson? Who saw this? Deshaun Watson looked like the ultimate franchise quarterback on and off the field, and it is a mess, a serious mess, not to make light of anything down there. And I'm just saying, you never know, right? So a year ago, people would have said, man, I wish the Browns would have drafted Deshaun Watson. And can you imagine if that was here now? So that is something you just always have to be aware that you don't know that. And then the other thing is, listen, I think sometimes Odell has gotten a bad rap on the drama. We made drama because he wore a watch, right? I mean, it's like, so like part of it is like, maybe we're all a little bit relaxed because when you win, right, there's nobody's on the outlook for drama as much. I mean, I don't know. Was that really drama that he wore a watch during a game, but like we made it a thing? So, but also, by the way, Odell's been hurt and hasn't been around. And sometimes we can make a big deal about Odell when I think it doesn't deserve to be a big deal. So let's let Odell get back to camp and everybody and decide if there's no drama. But this is welcome to the new Browns. Welcome to winning. Winning solves everything, but also top down, DePodesta, Barry, Stefanski, and the way Baker handles himself now, the way Myles Garrett handles himself, they are kind of a bunch of no drama dudes, the way they're doing business right now.
Yeah, and you know what? Those teams usually win some football games. Doug Lesmerises, columnist from cleveland.com, as well as a plain dealer. We're going to step aside, take a quick time out. On the other side of the break, should the Browns franchise tag Nick Chubb, Wyatt Teller? We will dive into that, as well as who might be the breakout player for the Browns in 2021. Sports4CLE will be right back. Stay with us.
Life is starting to get back on track, and you can too. If you or your family have experienced financial hardship as a result of COVID-19, Tri-C can help with full tuition assistance. Safely get the in-demand degree or training you need with online and on-campus classes. Go to tric-edu to check out our programs and resources. So, what are you waiting for? Register now for summer classes. Tri-C is where futures begin.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just the mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
Sports4CLE continues. I'm Dave Bacon. We continue talking Browns football with Doug Lesmerises, columnist for cleveland.com, as well as plain dealer. Doug, so Dog Pound Daily asks the question, will the Browns franchise tag Nick Chubb or Wyatt Teller next year?
So this is one of those areas where I'm never afraid to admit that I steal my opinions from Mary Kay Cabot, because just like everybody else out there, I listen to her just like you should be listening to her. She made a really good point on our latest Orange and Brown Talk podcast, where there's the financial part, the analytical part, the roster building part of decisions like that, and then there's the human part of it. And I just don't think they want to get into like franchise tagging Nick Chubb. He's too special. He's too important. He's done everything right. Everybody loves him. I think you just got to sign that guy. And I think franchise tagging Wyatt Teller makes a lot more sense. But, she was saying, you could franchise tag Nick Chubb for the next couple of years. And maybe if it was just sort of a good running back, that might fit with what the Browns want to do. But there is something about this guy that, as much as people love Myles Garrett and love Baker Mayfield and love Jarvis Landry and Odell Beckham, there is something about the way Nick Chubb handles his business that I think exemplifies the Browns in a lot of ways, that I think fans really connect with. And you need to reward that. You need to acknowledge how important he is. And I think that means not tagging him. I think that means locking him up. Now, Teller, a guard, right? As good as he's been, I think that makes a lot more sense. But I think you need to let Nick Chubb know with an extension, like, you're our guy and you're going to be here in that core we were talking about earlier.
Yeah, I would agree. I wouldn't be surprised if they don't franchise tag either of them, if they try to extend both of them. Let's move on. Anthony Schwartz, You had the Gotta Watch Tape podcast. You guys took a look at how he would fit into this offense. Take us through that, what you found out, what was discussed.
Yeah, so Scott Patsko and I talked about this week. We do the Gotta Watch the Tape every Thursday. It's usually me, Scott, and Ellis Williams. We've been going through the Browns draft picks, and I just think Anthony Schwartz to me is an interesting gamble. But I think we have to admit that it's a gamble, that this guy is not a polished all-around full receiver yet, right? The way that Auburn used him last year, they threw him a lot of short stuff. He was, I think, 8th in the SEC in total receptions last year, but he was something like in the 30s in receptions of 30 yards or more. And I know that's asking a lot, but he only had 2, which means like they weren't chucking the ball down the field and making big plays with this guy. Right now, the quarterback play at Auburn last year, I think sometimes Anthony Schwartz was open and they missed him. That's not his fault, but he is really kind of a special kind of guy. I just don't know that he's going to contribute all that much this year. And I think every time he's on the field, now the good thing is I think every single time he's on the field for the Browns in 2021, he'll be the fifth best skill position player on the field. Because if he's out there with Odell Beckham and Jarvis Landry and Nick Chubb and Austin Hooper, he's option number 5. He'll always be option number 5. With a guy who runs a 4.26, that's pretty good. But I don't think he's a guy you can, throw the ball to him over the middle. I don't think he's going to be a guy they're going to throw a lot of deep balls to. At the moment, it feels like more like, kind of bubble screen, swing pass kind of stuff. I just, I think he's got a little bit of a ways to go in his route running, maybe with his hands. I mean, this is what everybody says, right? I mean, just a great natural talent with his speed. And you understand why the Browns wanted to get faster. And Andrew Berry said that. But I think he's a more down the line guy. I just would not get my hopes too high. 3rd round pick. Sometimes 3rd round picks really help you. I think he's a sort of a special roll of the dice that is more about 2022 and 2023 than he is about 2021.
Fair enough. So Bleacher Report came out with every NFL team's breakout player for 2021. The Browns is another rookie. They like Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. Thoughts on that one?
I like that Doug talks for 2 minutes. Dave's like, fair enough. That was too long, Doug.
Well, no.
Shorten it up a little bit.
No.
Just squeeze it down a little bit, man.
I agree with you.
Sorry, I went long.
I didn't want to repeat what you were saying.
Listen, I'm not going with rookies on a breakout thing. JOK, and we did him on Gotta Watch the Tape too, and Ellis and Scott really broke him down. He's a special kind of disruptor out in space. He's the kind of guy you throw a swing pass, or you try to run wide. He's going to attack that play, blow it up, allow Myles Garrett to come back in pursuit. He's like a 12th man on this defense to me, though. I don't know that he's like a real starter. He's certainly going to have a role. I think a guy like Grant Delpit, who has not played a snap in the NFL, but has a year of watching film, has a year of being around this coaching staff, might make a little more sense as a breakout candidate. Even a guy maybe like, I don't know, Jordan Elliott, again, a 3rd round pick last year, Jacob Phillips. I just think this defense is good enough now that I don't know that I'm picking either of the rookies to be their breakout guy, because I think the whole thing is, I think Greg Newsome and Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah could be like the 9th and 10th best defensive players on this team, which means they're helping them, but the Browns don't need them to be any more than that, because they have Myles Garrett and Jadeveon Clowney and Anthony Walker and Troy Hill and John Johnson and Denzel Ward and Grant Delpit and Ronnie Harrison. And that's the whole point. So on a list like that, I understand why people are fired up about JOK, but I'm really curious if Grant Delpit's healthy and he has this year of NFL study in him. He's a guy I would put him more on a list like that than a rookie in this defense.
And I think that speaks to how much the Browns have upgraded this defense, that you don't have to plug in pretty good, pretty highly thought of draft picks. You don't have to worry about them coming right in and starting.
And maybe I'll be wrong. Listen, Antoine Winfield, as a rookie for the Bucs last year, winning the Super Bowl, was one of the 5 most important guys on their defense, and that was a really good defense too. So maybe JOK is that, but I just think I think Anthony Walker and Jacob Phillips and Malcolm Smith might end up with more snaps than him at linebacker. He is a great bonus, and I think he might be a core player down the road. But at the moment for this year, I'm thinking more of like great situational potential guy, but I don't know that I would say breakout.
Doug Lesmerises, columnist for The Plain Dealer as well as cleveland.com. As always, appreciate the time and the insight. Thanks very much, Doug.
Thanks, Dave. Always fun. All
right, Doug Lesmerises, make sure you read them in the pages of The Plain Dealer and on cleveland.com. We're going to step aside, take a quick time out. We will shift our focus. We head out to Toledo, where the voice of the Clippers, Ryan Mitchell, will join us to talk some of the Indians' AAA guys. Sports4CLE will be right back. Stay with us.
Life is starting to get back on track, and you can too. If you or your family have experienced financial hardship as a result of COVID-19, Tri-C can help with full tuition assistance. Safely get the in-demand degree or training you need with online and on-campus classes. Go to tric-edu to check out our programs and resources. So, what are you waiting for? Register now for summer classes. Tri-C is where futures begin.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just a mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
Sports4CLE continues. I'm Dave Bacon. We shift our focus a little bit. We're going to talk some of the Indians down on the farm, particularly at AAA Columbus. Let's welcome in the voice of the Columbus Clippers, Ryan Mitchell. Ryan, as always, appreciate it. Ryan is in Toledo, where the Clippers will play the Mud Hens tonight. Let's talk a little bit about a guy who has kind of captivated the attention of Indians fans. Owen Miller can play all over the infield. What have you seen with Miller, Ryan?
I thought you were going to talk about Crash and Lucille, the mascot. Oh, Owen Miller. Yeah, he's a guy that's been doing some things to start the season, hitting mid 450s. It's really been pretty impressive. Every year in what was the International League, now AAA East, there are a couple of guys that get off to a huge start to begin the season, batting averages that are obviously unsustainable over the course of an entire campaign. But the Clippers haven't really had one of these guys in a long time. So it's refreshing to see what Owen Miller is doing. Home run last night at Toledo. It was his second of the year. And boy, he just continues to do what he's done all season long and just find the soft spots in the defense. Over the last few games, he's starting to drive the ball a little bit better. So that's obviously a positive sign for Owen Miller, the Clippers, and in the future, the Cleveland Indians. He continues to play all over the place defensively. I think we're going to see him in the outfield tonight. So, and that's been the Cleveland Indians' MO for a long time. Make guys versatile defensively, and so they can help you at any spot when they get to the major leagues. He's hit in a few different spots in the batting order. When a guy first gets called up, usually, particularly with a guy who's not a power hitter like Miller, they'll find themselves in the bottom third of the order to try and get their feet wet a little bit. But I think this guy's going to be able to, hit pretty much anywhere and give you a professional at bat. And the thing that I love most about Owen is the fact that he never, ever gives up on a ball in play. He's beaten out several infield hits this year just through pure hustle. Maybe the defender was a little bit lazy. Maybe the ball took a bit of a funny hop. And because he was head down sprinting to first base, he turned what probably is an out against a lot of guys into a base hit. So that certainly helps the batting average as well. But what it does is show that he cares a lot. And that can be a good example to everybody else. And, I don't know the inner workings of the Cleveland Indians dugout and clubhouse right now. But one of the things that I think got lost with Francisco Lindor leaving was his leadership. And I think you need that. And even when you have veterans, a young guy can come in. He doesn't have to be a Johnny Tryhard, but if he is playing the right way, that can have a ripple effect through a team. And then who knows, maybe through some extra hustle, some hits begin to form, some innings turn into crooked numbers instead of maybe just one run. So I don't know that Owen Miller is the savior for the Cleveland Indians moving forward, but certainly when they call his name, I got a pretty good sense he's going to contribute.
Well, one of the guys that the Indians called his name a little bit earlier this week, J.C. Mejia. I know you didn't see him a lot, hadn't spent a lot of time in AAA the past couple of years. What did you see? What type of pitcher can Mejia be, do you think?
Well, I think he can help the Indians in whichever role they put him in, whether they use him as a starter or a long man in the bullpen. They got some guys there at the tail end of the bullpen that they seem to like an awful lot that are doing the job. So I don't think he's going to go into that role. But he can pitch deep into games, throw strikes. It looks like he's got a pretty good mix, and we haven't seen him a ton. So it's hard to make a deep proclamation on what kind of pitcher he is. But from what we have seen, he pitches like a pro, and that's good. He's got a good mix of pitches, tries to work around the zone as much as possible, and doesn't really seem to give away at bats. So if you've got a guy that does that, you can put him into a variety of roles and feel good that you are going to get some success there. You don't necessarily think of Mejia as a guy that's going to come in, whether it's in a bullpen and walk a bunch of guys. You can't have that. If you put him in a mop-up role, it's a 7-run game. You don't care all that much. But I think he's going to be a guy that they can put into a situation where they need to hold a lead of a couple of runs or keep the opposition right where they are to try and build the comeback. So for Mejia, I think I'd like to see more of him before making a judgment, but the little bit I did see looked pretty good.
Let's shift our attention to position players not named Owen Miller. So another guy who's getting some attention because of the spring training he had, Bobby Bradley. I know he got off to a slow start. How has he been hitting as of late?
Things are starting to turn around for Bobby, at least from the looks of things. There was a day back at Huntington Park over the last homestand where he was out doing some early work with the coaching staff and working on using more of the field. And that seemed to carry into games. It hasn't always wound up turning into hits, but he's hitting the ball to left. He's got the ability to go that way, and they overshift against Bobby every single time, as you do with a lot of left-hand power hitters. There's 3 defenders on the right side. That third baseman's all the way over at double play position at shortstop. So if he can punch one through the infield, you get to 2 strikes, maybe shorten up a little bit. Nobody's asking Bobby to bunt. Okay, that's not going to happen. But you shorten up a little bit, maybe you can beat that shift. They also play him to pull in the outfield, and he's starting to drive the ball the opposite way. And he's going to get his home runs. You make a mistake to Bobby Bradley, he's going to hurt you. But the thing that I'm seeing is better solid contact, more consistent contact, and using more of the field. So, I've seen enough of these games and enough players to know that is usually a precursor for better results on the field. So hopefully for Bobby, that's what's going to happen.
Last thing I'll ask you before I let you go. Bradley Zimmer and Oscar Mercado, a couple of outfielders, haven't really found their stride at AAA from the numbers. What have you seen from Bradley Zimmer and Oscar Mercado?
Things are looking better for both of them as well. Mercado had a 2-double game the other day and then had another hit last night. And Bradley Zimmer, I believe, has a 5-game hitting streak going. I think he has 2 hits in each of his last 2 games. And I'm talking about Zimmer now, has had a lot of really positive signs. Like Bobby, he's starting to hit the ball the other way. They overshift against him as well. I wonder if Bradley Zimmer didn't fall victim early in his career to being a guy that everybody thought, well, this is the next Grady Sizemore. He can hit 30 home runs and steal 40 bases. Well, maybe that's not his game. He can certainly run, and he can really play in the outfield. But I think if Bradley Zimmer concentrates more on being a contact hitter, using the entire field, just put the ball in play, he's going to have really good results. And that's starting to happen. His batting average now is back into what is now 2021 average. Batting averages are not very good this year. all told, but his batting average has moved up, and I think there are positive signs for Bradley Zimmer as well. And listen, it's no mystery. These guys know that the Cleveland Indians are looking for offensive help. And I wonder, maybe sometimes they put too much pressure on themselves to be that guy. But right now, Bradley Zimmer is swinging the bat better. Oscar Mercado is having some good at-bats at the plate as well. They both really play well in the outfield. So they're not going to embarrass a team in the outfield. They're going to give you good play in left, center, and right. But they do have to be able to hit a little bit to contribute at the major league level. I'm seeing positive signs for both.
Ryan Mitchell, voice of the Columbus Clippers, as always, appreciate the time and the insight. Ryan's getting ready to call Clippers game against the Toledo Mud Hens tonight. Ryan, thanks very much for your time. Appreciate it, man.
Absolutely. Anytime. Thanks for having me, Dave.
All right, Ryan Mitchell, voice of the Columbus Clippers. We're going to shift our attention and talk Indians getting ready for a 3-game series against the Minnesota Twins that'll get underway at Progressive Field here in a little bit over 2 hours. Sports4CLE will return. Mark Munch Bishop joins us to talk Tribe when we get back.
Life is starting to get back on track, and you can too. If you or your family have experienced financial hardship as a result of COVID-19, Tri-C can help with full tuition assistance. Safely get the in-demand degree or training you need with online and on-campus classes. Go to tric-edu to check out our programs and resources. So, what are you waiting for? Register now for summer classes. Tri-C is where futures begin.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just the mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
Sports4CLE continues. I'm Dave Bacon. Indians getting ready to open up a 3-game series against the Minnesota Twins. Tristan McKenzie will go to the mound against Randy Drobnik, who was called up for the Twins to make the start. It begins a 3-game weekend series with the Twins Tribe just 2.5 games behind the White Sox in first place. So the question is, Indians have had a little bit of struggles with their 4th and 5th starters between Tristan McKenzie, Sam Hentges, and Logan Allen, who has been sent to AAA. Question is, with those guys struggling, do the top 3, Bieber, Savale, and Plesac, have more pressure on them?
We're only in May. If we're to the point of too many innings in May, we're in trouble. I think your better pitchers in the game are going to accrue innings and pitches. That's the way the game is. Like I said, a lot of times, we don't want to penalize them for working hard. But we do keep an eye on workloads. Believe me, we had a chance to give Bieber an extra day this time, so we did. We didn't think Plesac needed it. And Carl talks to these pitchers all the time. If a guy needs extra rest, we give it to him.
Let's welcome in Mark Munch Bishop from 1350 AM The Gambler, Munch on Sports, as well as Indians pregame. Much appreciate the time. 3-game series with the Twins. Indians only 2.5 out. Pitching staff has been pretty good.
It's interesting to note, and I love Tito, and I appreciate you showing that clip talking about the 4th and 5th starters. Because you know what? Indians pitching staff has been very, very good. Now, that's 1 through 3. Even Savale the other night, I'm watching him saying, he just doesn't seem to have it. He had it. He had one inning where he gave up a couple of hard hit balls, no doubt. Naylor lost that one in the sun. He hit a rocket and was able to be snapped by the center fielder. But no, they've been very, very good. And I want to tell you this. Tristan McKenzie, don't walk people tonight, Tristan, because you've got the panacea, you've got the cure-all. You have a guy, as you noted, David, who just got called up to pitch today, Randy Dobnik, and what was he when he had a brief appearances with the Twins so far this year? 0-3 with an 8.16 ERA. So if you're going to get, quote-unquote, fat on a pitcher, this is the guy to do it, to start off the series and bury the Twins even more and get it done now this part of the season.
You know, people ask, what do the Indians need to get going? They need a couple of the guys offensively, and one guy in particular that they could really use to start hitting like he's capable of is Rosario. I mean, Eddie Rosario is a professional hitter, and I hope he warms up with the weather, Munch.
You know what, man? I know you well enough. I like the concern on your face just now because Progressive Field has been his home. What do I mean by that much? He's played for the Twins. No, his stats at Progressive Field have been off the chart. That was definitely a reason why the Indians looked at him. So, number one, he's playing a team that gave up on him. Have a little chip on your shoulder. Say, you know what? You guys made a mistake, even though I'm glad I'm gone because you're in the basement and we're knocking on the door of first place, okay? So this is the perfect series, David, for Eddie to get unhinged, to show his team he made the right move. The Progressive Field is really his first home and only home now. And what a great, great series to do it. I'm expecting him to do it this series, and I'm not a dreamer.
The other thing that has jumped out early in this season, we're not even to Memorial Day yet, that bullpen has been special. Back end of it has been outstanding, and I think that allows you to be a little cautious with the 4 and 5 starters. Let them have some success. Don't make them go much past 5th, 6th inning, and then get to Brian Shaw in that bullpen.
You know what, David? That's just Brian Shaw, and I will salute Brian. I'll be the first. Everybody talks about Brian eating up innings last time around. I'll be the first to tell you. I was not a Brian Shaw fan. That little Richard Simmons stretch he had drove me crazy, okay? You got to be macho if you're a reliever. You got to be like the mad Hungarian, Al Hrabosky, or one of these guys, who are yelling at the baseball and screaming at the mound. But the bottom line is this, God bless you, Brian. Fastball in the mid-90s, high 90s. You definitely earned your way back, and I'm glad you're back. Let's think about this. You've got him out there in the 6th. You could use Whitgren in the 7th if you want, one of the other younger kids, and then Clausse and Karinchak, or Karinchak and Clausse. And right now, doesn't look like it's going to be Clausse and Karinchak. And one thing I noticed with young Clausse against the Angels the other night, people were hitting the ball, but righties, right-handed hitters, were hitting it all to the right side of the infield, which means they're still not getting around on it. Very, very good, which is a good thing. David, one thing I want to point out, you've seen it too, is that Clausse keeps coming with the heat. It was just a few weeks ago where he was striking Tigers out with a breaking ball that went from noon to 6. I wonder if he's worried about just getting to throw strikes, because I haven't seen that breaking ball for a while, but that could be a killer. How about Mr. Karinchak, the little oddity, tossing the ball up and down, going to the mound? He's having fun out there, but he's nasty too.
Munch Bishop and I are going to step aside, take a quick time out. On the other side of the break, we're going to talk a little bit of Cleveland Browns to wrap up the week. Sports for CLE will be right back. Stay with us.
Life is starting to get back on track, and you can too. If you or your family have experienced financial hardship as a result of COVID-19, Tri-C can help with full tuition assistance. Safely get the in-demand degree or training you need with online and on-campus classes. Go to tric-edu to check out our programs and resources. So, what are you waiting for? Register now for summer classes. Tri-C is where futures begin.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just the mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
Sports for CLE continues. We're going to shift our focus a little bit, talk Cleveland Browns football. Andrew Berry was on the Ross Tucker podcast and was talking about the roster upgrades and how they approach things as far as the Browns go.
In fairness, it's probably a mindset that we really hold year round, because roster building, personnel work really is 365 days a year. And we'll always look to add competition, add depth, because the reality of it is, like, the needs that you may or may not have today, they could change as quickly as tomorrow, with an injury or some other unfortunate circumstance, or even, quite honestly, with improvement from a player that you wouldn't typically expect. So we're constantly on the search for talent to add to the 90-man roster, and we want to go into August with as deep of a team as we could possibly have.
Let's bring back in Mark Munch Bishop from 1350 AM, The Gambler, Munch on Sports. Very interesting the way that Andrew Berry approaches building this roster. I thought that was fascinating.
You know what? At first, in fact, it grated me a little bit right before the draft when he said, it's not about this year, it's about the future. Well, take a step back. Dang well better be about this year, because you have a team that is progressing quickly, rapidly, not taking baby steps, moving. But you know what? In the back of your mind, you have to be thinking, will they be around? Will this guy be ready perhaps when somebody else, and he talked about, goes down? Depth is so important. We mentioned one rookie may start. Out of all the great rookies that they brought in, are they great yet? Yeah, I feel many of them will be. But the bottom line is, Andrew, he gets it. Don't know how he could not. And David, I'm going to say this, and if anything, is the Browns under the microscope for me, because, I'm still saying, okay, I'm not from Missouri, but show me, win one, then win the next one. But they have assembled, and Andrew Berry has done it with his help, with his Chargers, and of course Kevin Stefanski has aided him there. They've assembled the best roster in the NFL. Now, you still got to play games on the gridiron, but this is the best roster, hands down.
I would agree, and the other thing about it is it's almost like it's three-dimensional, because he's thinking about this year, he's looking at next year, he's looking at who he has to extend. The other thing is, now on that same Ross Tucker football podcast, Tucker asked him about having that best roster in the NFL and mentioned Super Bowl. Listen to Andrew Berry.
I think, number one, all 32 teams, their goal is to win the Super Bowl and build a team capable of doing that. For us internally, we don't necessarily think of it in that light, Ross. Our perspectives, we're excited about the guys that we've added to the team and the guys that we're going to enter the offseason program and summer training camp with. But at the same time, our mindset has largely been, all right, let's control what we can control on a daily basis, work hard, get up to speed in our offense and defensive systems, show improvement. And if we take care of the little things, when we look up in December, January, February, we'll be pleased where we've ended up. But we really try and keep a much narrower focus, because at the end of the day, I think everybody's very optimistic at this point in the year. And, each season really is unique. Each season's unique. We're certainly excited about the talent that we have on the team, but it takes preparation, hard work, and then a little bit of luck along the way, ultimately to reach the top prize.
Gotta love the mindset, Munch.
I'll tell you something. Andrew's a better man than me. If somebody would ask me about the Super Bowl, I'd say, I'm sorry, but I refuse to answer that question. Why would you even mention those two words? Do people realize, David, how hard it is to go to a Super Bowl, let alone win it? I'd say Aaron Rodgers is a pretty good quarterback. He's had some pretty good teams. Won one time being there, in 10 years. Now, if you would ask me, I say, here's our goal. Sure it is to move on and win a championship sooner than later. But you know what our goal is? Call it simplistic, and I just mentioned it. Win the first game, then win the second game. Win the third game, win the fourth game. Because, David, remember this? And this was not just the fans. It was many media people. Last time I heard that we were going to, quote, unquote, the big game, the team was 6-10. That's all I'm going to say. I don't mention it. To me, that is like the Malarkey, you know what I mean? The big jinx.
You're a little bit more superstitious than Andrew Berry.
Oh.
The one thing that was impressive, though, is the little things and the focus, and in the building, that better those better be the messages.
You know what? Once again, an example that Andrew gives it. And David, isn't it the little things? Look at last year. What did we notice right away? It might seem like a little thing, but it's a big thing when you're getting flags and getting yardage taken off of you. Did you see too many men on the field last year? I don't believe we did. Did you see delay of games last year? I don't believe we did. I know Freddie told us that they don't practice penalties. He also told us that Pittsburgh started it, and we know where that got him. But the bottom line is this, is that this team gets it. And I want to say this, because technically I'm an adult, but you know me well enough. Ask my wife, she would dispute that. But this team now, David Bacon, is being run by adults. How refreshing is that? It's so cool.
Yeah, and you know what? Browns fans deserve it. They suffered through enough of it where it wasn't. All right, the last thing we'll deal with, and you're not going to like this one either, Munch, I'll tell you. So Andrew Hawkins was asked which team that lost in the divisional round of the playoffs a season ago will make it to the Super Bowl. Former Browns wide receiver Andrew Hawkins, now a national sports guy. Listen to who he picks.
Which team that lost in the 2020 divisional round has the best shot of reaching Super Bowl 56? Hawk.
I'm going to go with the Cleveland Browns. That might be the prototypical answer from me, but this is a team that only got better this offseason. They advanced last year. They were stopped by the AFC champion Kansas City Chiefs. And what they've done this offseason in adding Clowney to the pass rush, OBJ comes back to a progressed Baker Mayfield, as well as what they've done in the secondary, understanding to get to the Super Bowl, they have to go through Buffalo, they have to go through Kansas City in those passing attacks. I think they are the best primed of these teams for sure, and I honestly think they have a legit chance of making a run at the Lombardi.
There you go. Another national guy that says it.
I didn't mind that one so much because it was limited, okay? You gave me teams that have been in postseason. And David, think about this. There's no doubt. Let's look at the AFC. The Browns, the Chiefs, the Bills. I'm not counting out the Ravens. You know, Miami got pretty good too. So it's not going to be a gimme. But yes, everything is lining up for the Browns to do, as I said, win the first one, win the second, win the third, and keep going, and good things will happen. I will note this, though, too. Had they beat the Chiefs last year, Munch, how do you know these things? Well, 4 decades of doing this, why I'm still doing it, had they beat the Chiefs last year, they definitely beat Buffalo.
I would agree with that. I think they were positioned to do that as well. The other thing is you can't deny this roster is deep, it's talented, and it's young. The most impressive thing is you don't have guys that are on the backside of their career by and large. You have guys still ascending.
Youth be served. There's no doubt about it. And you know, Dave, when you talk about depth, the offensive line, you know, you need 7 quality guys on the offensive line, 2 that can start to come in, because sadly, this is not another jinx, but somebody's going to get hurt because these guys are in each and every play. Think about it. They're getting hit each and every play. Receivers don't get every play, hit every play. QBs don't, running backs don't. They do. But the thing I like about this offensive line, not only are they good, they're mean. They're nasty. They dig their fingers in when they get the 3-point stance. And if their knuckles get bloody, all the better for these guys. Yeah, there's going to be something special going on.
Mark Munch Bishop, as always, appreciate the time and the insight. Always enjoy it. Thanks very much, Mark.
We'll talk to you soon, my friend. Thank you. Have a great weekend, and thanks for having me.
All right, appreciate it. Mark Munch Bishop, 1350 AM, The Gambler. That'll do it for this edition of Sports4CLE. Scheduled guest Monday is Mary Kay Cabot, Browns beat reporter. We'll also talk some Indians. Have a great weekend, everybody. We will see you again Monday at 4 right here on Sports4CLE.